Hoi, o te Māori Standing Committee I tēnei wā. I te wā nei, e ka hurita rākau ki mana ahuriri, he whakatuwhera tātou hui I te ata nei, I te mihi me te whakamoimiti a tātou hui huinga. Nā koe kuru.
A tēnā tātou, kākari a tātou. Tūpua te wairua ki a rere ki ngā taumata. Hai ārihi I a tātou mahi me tā tātou whai I ngā tikanga a rātou mai. Kia mau, kia ita, kia pōre ai e ngaro, kia pupuri, kia whakamaua, kia tīna.
Tīna.
Auie, Ki ngā mate huhua te wā kei tēnā marae, ka tangi tonu mātou. Hoi anō, kei te ora tonu rātou, I roto I a koe, I roto I a koutou, o tira ki a tātou. Hari atu rā ki te pō ki te rārangi matua meki o ngā tipuna kei reira moe ai. Nau mai hara mai ki a tātou, ki konei o te whānginui a rotu. Mō tēnei hui, aha ko no hea koe, nau mai hara mai. Kōrua tahi, I mātakitaki mai mātou, ka hono mai mātou mō tēnei hui, tēnā kōrua. I he tino he hui a whakahira mā tātou, o tira mō nā tai whenua huri no o kahununu. Reira, kia kaha, kia maia, kia mananamunu. E mihi ana ki tēnā o tātou, e titi kaha ki te kaupapa nei. Nā reira, huri noa, tēnā koutou, o tira tēnā tātou.
Okay, e ti tātou. Ke honoe. Mino koutou. Ai tūtai mi kia koe kuri whakatuwhera tātou hui tēnei rā I te mihi me te kupu o te atua. I mihi hoki kia koe Māori mō tō tautoko I pānga ki a tātou himene o te ata nei. So just like to welcome everybody here in person, online, and of course those, just remind everybody that we are streaming live on Facebook to the wider community. in regards, and this is our last Māori Standing Committee of this triennial. As we know, we're heading into elections. And of course, one of the questions for the incoming council in the new term is whether this committee continues. And we'll have a recommendation that will come from the committee in regards to that. In the event of an earthquake or emergency, as we all know the procedure, drop, cover and hold. If the shaking is long and strong, when the shaking subsides, leave the building through the nearest exit and proceed immediately towards the Napier Hill along Dalton Street to Tiffany Park, continuing up the steps to Cameron Road. If you're walking, I'll drive. Evacuation. If there's evacuation alarm sounds immediately, evacuate the building through the nearest exit, proceed to assembly area on the grass at the corner of Dalton and Boltier Street. Emergency exits are clearly signposted. Someone will point these out to you. And of course, the wharepaku toilets are located down the hall to the left of the chamber entrance. So that's the formalities over and done with. Apologies, we have a couple of apologies up to this point. We have Bade and Barbara Api Robin, who are both attending the kororeihana. So he me kia tātou Queenie, me te whareariki o te kingitanga. And we also have apologies from Uncle Hami. Are there any other apologies?
Kia ora, Chair. Can I please give my apologies from 12 to 1 o'clock where I have to dip out for a hui?
You can.
Yes, thank you.
If there are no other apologies, can I have a mover, please? Thank you, Peter. All those in favour, please say aye. Thank you, carried. Conflicts of interest and declarations? I didn't see any within report on what I read. No, thank you. Item 3. Alternate members' appointments. Māori, do we have one from Heretaunga?
Alternate, Stuart White.
No.
Sorry. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Anna. Would be Anna.
Yeah, thank you. Can I get a seconder, please, for that?
Sure.
Thank you, Paul. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Thank you.
Aye.
So confirmation of minutes from the Māori Committee meeting held on the 5th of March 2025. The minutes have been out for some time in circulation. Were there any admissions or amendments? If not, I'll take them as read.
Just on page 5, just a couple of corrections. It's headed 1.1, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Stuart White with a WHYTE, and that's that bullet point. And right at the very end, second round of Sims with a C rather than an S.
Tāpai. If no other amendments or corrections, can I have a move and a second from those that were present, please? Yeah. Yep, thank you, anyway. Who else was present? Thank you, Paul. All those in favour, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Carried. Item 5, call for minor items not on the agenda. Peter, did you have one?
Yeah, I was just around the procurement corridor. I think we've noted that. I know we've had discussions before, but obviously just to have an additional conversation in regards to that. Thank you.
Ka pai.
Mr. Chairman, just an update on the outstanding water body plan change 7, operationalising that. If there's an update to that, it'd be appreciated.
And I had one from myself in regards to Māori wards. Were there any other minor items? Those are our minor items.
Minor item, maybe communication to the members of this committee. Can we get that sorted out, please?
We'll raise that as one of your minor items. Thank you, Paul. We need to move on to accept those minor items? I can't remember. No, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Okay, we're up to item 6, reflections and insight of the incoming council. to you, Te Wairama, thank you.
Tēnā koe Chair o tira tēnā rā koutou katoa te komiti kua huhu mai I tēnei rā. I will take the paper as read, but just introduce what it is that we seek from this committee from that paper. As Chair Mike Paku has indicated, today is the last meeting of the Māori Committee for this triennium, and as an organisation we seek insights or reflections from this committee to inform the onboarding of the incoming council for the 25 to 27 triennium. And we are looking for feedback from this committee around things that you would like to see included or to inform that process. The second thing that we seek is a recommendation, should you wish, highlighting the importance of tangata whenua representation in HBRC's governance arrangements for the 25 to 28, triennium.
So in regards to the first one, in regards to some input that we may have in regards to what we'd like to see take place in regards to the incoming or the induction of the incoming council. Peter, can I come to you first, please, to deal with that first point? What would we like to see perhaps the council take into consideration?
Te tiriti, so obviously it's an important part of the process and we'd like to have that kōrero within the induction process.
Anything else?
Sorry, did you want to?
I think that'd be really important, depending on the faces of the story, well, any of the faces around here, as I understand this whole induction process, really needs to focus on the importance of our relationship as it's been struck by Treaty of Waitangi and that partnership. And of course, this committee here has served to be that front face, the Māori Standing Committee from day dot. I'd be really welcoming to know that the incumbent body for the next term is really aware of the history, a chronological history of how this committee set in place, I guess, overall, which in its journey has included, of course, the involvement, the development of the current PSGEs that are in place, the Māori, our Māori team that's led by Te Wairama also came as a consequence of our input back into the annual or the long-term plan. And so this committee here, I think it'd be really good, Mr. Chairman, to actually have some kind of history to just show the nature and extent of this function that has been within, of course, this Māori Standing Committee as a whole. You know, when I talk about as a whole, the whole region of the Hawke's Bay Regional Council, which takes in the four tai whenua and representing itself right across that broad region. And we know we're going through changing times, notwithstanding the central government, but also ourselves. But it would reflect really well, Mr. Chairman, if we had that history.
And that may be recorded in a briefing paper and some formal document that they can reference. So it's up to you how you put it together, but a briefing paper would most probably be good for the new councillors.
Chair, can I just clarify? Are you asking the Māori Committee for their views on the incoming councillors' briefing or also for incoming Māori Committee members?
So it's in regards to the councillors themselves. Yeah. Basically, one is what do we see as being some of the priorities that we would hope that the council would do in part of that induction to help those that step into the role, to, if you like, to have a better understanding of what we see as being some of the key issues and the cornerstones, I suppose those cornerstones in regards to having a better relationship with iwi Māori and helping to understand that. I think the other, for me, I understand that the induction period is spread over 2 weeks, and part of that is a bit of a road trip around the district to understand some of the bigger issues. I would hope that as part of that, the council will take the opportunity to meet with local mana whenua of those particular areas, and just to help establish that relationship nice and early within the triennial period. I think it will go a long way in regards to improving relationships or consolidating on the good work that's been done up to this point.
And that, just picking on Sophie's point, that induction paper, obviously, Kurt's just come on board, that could be widened to incorporate our new members that might come on the Māori Standing Committee that is in that record paper, so it could have a dual purpose.
And I suppose finally for me, I think the big question here is part of that is at our pre-Hui discussion, our recommendation has come from the committee in regards to the incoming council, that it continues, that it reinforces and re-establishes the ongoing presence of the Māori Standing Committee in the new term, as we understand that is the prerogative of the incoming committee. We accept that those are the terms of reference, but has been the custom and practice at the end of our current term that we will put that recommendation forward. We hope that we've demonstrated and given value to the council by this committee and its input into the business of council. So I hope we can continue to do that work. And I suppose just adding to that, it would be nice if this committee had its own ingoa in regards to just being the Māori Standing Committee. And I looked through to Heretaunga, to Hastings District Council. They have a name for their own Māori Standing Committee there, Takatono. I understand Ahuriri has the same. And I was just wondering if it was timely that the Hawke's Bay Regional Council had the same for its standing committee here at Hastings, the Hawke's Bay Regional Council. Hopefully it is not te kore. We'll see what happens. So that's a challenge to the officers.
Cool.
Henawai?
Kia ora, Mike. Thank you for those recommendations. And just to clarify, it's a status quo recommendation, same terms of reference, except that a new ingoa may be gifted to that committee. Ka pai?
Ka pai. Thank you.
Kia ora.
So that's no second required for that? No movement of that one?
The recommendations for this paper, and just to take us back slightly, it was requested that from this discussion that we capture a minute the kōrero to help to inform the onboarding process of the incoming council. So the recommendations were that the Māori Committee receives and considers the 2022 to 2025 reflections and insights for the incoming Regional Council report, and recommends to the incoming Hawke's Bay Regional Council that its onboarding process recognises and reflects the importance of tangata whenua representation.
I shall move in that direction, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Māori. Seconded, Henare.
And just at a kōrero, because in our pre-discussions this morning, we talked about the wide breadth that the committee members on the Māori Standing Committee bring into the kōrero, because when you look at our representation in the various boards that they sit on, we just said it was a wide scope in regards to where we track, because obviously we're members of PSGEs, we sit on some of those boards, we sit on our marae committees, we sit on with Ngāti Kainunu, we sit on the Tai Whenuas, so it was just an important point, I think, that was referenced this morning in our court.
Multiple hats.
Yeah. Yep,
Thank
you.
Thank you for that. So all in favour of that, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Carried. Information items.
And so Richard Wakeman will introduce the statement.
Richard Wake.
Kia ora, tēnā koutou katoa, ko Richard Wakeland toko wengwa, no Patāne ahau, ko Isk toko awa, ko Kaweka Uku Paimona, ko Ngāti Kahununu Tōku Tūranga Wāwai. No reira, tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora, my name is Richard Wakelin and I'm Group Manager, Integrated Catchment Management for Hawke's Bay Regional Council. This is my first Māori committee attendance, so it's an absolute pleasure to be here today. What we're presenting this morning is the 3-yearly State of the Environment report that HBRC undertakes right across the region. This work culminates in a significant level of work by a large group of scientists, and some of our science team are here today, and they are here to answer questions that you might have on this report as we go through it. I'd just like to acknowledge that whilst this is the work of a very talented and experienced science team, there are a large number of others that actually work behind the scenes, that work in collecting the data, collecting the information, analysing that data, storing the data, and presenting it to our science team in order to bring this work to you today. So it's not just the scientist, whilst they're a very important part of this report today. There is a large group of people that sit behind the scenes right across our region that make this happen. So I'd just like to acknowledge their work and the effort that they actually put into bringing here today. I will introduce Simon Harper, who's our acting science manager. Hayley is away on leave. And I know that she would love to have been here today to present this to you, but Simon has the pleasure of doing that. And between Simon, Tony, we will present this information. So thank you for being here, and joy.
Kia ora koutou katoa, no mai haere mai, and welcome to the 2021-2024 SOE presentation part 2. Some of you were here a few weeks ago. I can recognise Sophie and down the room that were here for the EICC. I go blank on the crowd. And so this is very similar to the presentation we did last time, but we have shortened it up and we've done more of a catchment-focused styled presentation. Also as an opportunity to provide more time, hopefully for questions. But as Richard mentioned, my name is Simon Harper and I am team leader of the groundwater and hydrology section, so I am acting manager at the moment, but my specialty is in the groundwater space. In the previous meeting, what we did last time, which I really thought was quite nice, we did a quick introduction of our scientists, and I'd like to do that again if I may, and I will just start off with my team. So in the groundwater and hydrology space today, I might just get Todd to stand up. We have Todd, he's our one and only hydrologist we have in our groundwater and hydrology space, and we have Tom Wilson, who's our groundwater scientist over there. Yeah, this will help you when it comes to questions. You see, you're the face and name, hopefully. Not in the room in my team is Ahmed Alwyn, our principal groundwater modeller. I'm going to pass it over to Kozzy to introduce her team as well.
I'm the team leader. I'm Kathleen Kozniak. I'm the team leader for air and land science. And next to me we have Jess Copsey, who's our terrestrial ecologist. Jeremy Kidd, who's our air quality scientist, and I think Kurt Parachivi's our land scientist here in the room. Both Ashton is another land scientist, and unfortunately he's not well today, and also we have Nick, the climate scientist, who well.
We'll pass on to Fee.
Hi everyone, I'm Fee McDewey. I'm the team leader for freshwater and marine science. And my team is Andrea Glockner here, our coastal and marine specialist. Georgina Flowers, our estuarine sediment seagrass obsessed person. Vicky Lyon, who's a fish specialist in freshwater. Ari Mackay is our lake specialist, if you've got interest in lakes. And Sandy Heidecker. Sandy, there she is, in the back there.
And one other person to introduce beside me, we have Tony Gordon, who's our science translator, and Tony will be presenting some of those catchment slides later as well. I do want to reiterate what Richard was saying around this being a much bigger piece of work than scientists. The field team, you know, they go out day after day, week after week, rain or snow sometimes, if they're going up to the rainfall gauges, to collect this data. It does take a huge amount of time to collect, to organise access to some of the sites that we have as well. So, you know, a lot of thanks goes out to the Environmental Information Team and Pete Davis, who organised that. Richard's already touched on Hayley, who is not here at the moment. She's away on a much-deserved break that was booked up a long time ago. But also, I did mention last time Becky Shanahan. So Becky is a previous employee who's moved to the consulting world, but we knew how much work this was, and she was very instrumental in those early days in helping project manage this process. And since then, we've been very lucky to have Tony and Hayley come aboard and take the reins and bring it to what it is today. It has changed form over time. We were doing it 5-yearly, and we're now doing it 3-yearly, so it is quite a lot of work. I think I mentioned that, you know, the presentation is similar to the one at EICC, but slightly shortened. So what is state and environment monitoring, and why do we do it? Really, it's about collecting environmental information to help us manage our region's physical and natural resources. So we have quite a number of different SOE monitoring programs within each of those different science teams that we have, and we collect this information over time to see how our resources are changing over time, but specifically to try and understand how resource use is impacting the environment. By understanding how we impact the environment, we can make informed decisions around how best to manage it. And once we have a plan in place, so we have things like the Regional Resource Management Plan, you would have heard the Tank Plan or Tuki Tuki Plan, we can use this SOE data to help evaluate whether we are meeting those stakeholder and community-led environmental objectives that we set. And what we can do is then go, do we need to put in tougher regulatory or other non-regulatory methods to tweak the plan if we're not meeting it? And this diagram here is how it's meant to be a cycle. So it's every 5 years it's mandated under the RMA that we're meant to do an efficiency and effectiveness assessment of the plan, and that's done by our policy people with Katrina. And then through our monitoring, we'll revisit it, identify gaps, and we go round and round and round and tweaking it until we get those environmental objectives that we set. So what's new in this report? Like I said, we've been doing it for a massively long time. The first report I found, by the way, in one of our archives was in 1997. And we used to do it every 5 years. And then in between those 5 years, we used to report annually. And it's just recently that we changed it to 3 years. If anyone's interested in seeing those old reports, I'm happy to share it because it's quite fascinating to see the type of work that went into it. But what's new in this chapter? So for the very first time, we've got a chapter on Māori Māori. This was led by the Māori Partnership Team and TK, and introduces to the readers key concepts of Te Ao Māori. It's not designed to speak on behalf of mana whenua, but it acknowledges a step towards recognising that there's other knowledge systems besides Western science that can help manage our resource. We also have a dedicated chapter, of course, on Cyclone Gabrielle. This is quite a defining event within this monitoring period, so it not only just marks that event, but also documents its long-lasting impacts on our environment. So it's now up. You can find the SO report, so if you want to search for it and download it, you can find it on our website. You search #SOE. That takes you to a landing page about state of the environment in general, where not only can you find our 3-yearly report, but we have monthly updates as well. There's a hyperlink there. You can see, view the latest report. You see this icon, click on that, and it'll take you to an area where you can download the full report in its entirety, or you can look at each tour separately and download them alongside with the technical reports associated with it. So it's available online now. So what's coming out of the SOE? What we do is we build together a whole lot of recommendations to explore. You know, we don't expect to be doing all of those. They'll have to be prioritised and weighed up. So some of them, of course, are continuing with our SOE monitoring, plugging gaps where we identify that we don't have enough information, you know, seeing what we can do with our budgets. You know, still, like everyone, you can only work with what you've got there in terms of a monetary component. Some of them require community-led things, so they're your non-regulatory type methods like planting and fencing. You know, our science team can be involved in terms of directing where best those programs might be implemented. And we also have other new work streams. Again, they have to go through council process around the long-term planning to seek funding. They're up to the councillors and you guys to decide what's priority and whether that's worth that investment. I mentioned about the Mātauranga Māori. We're looking about how we integrate that into environment management, and I think TK is giving a talk a little later on in this committee about that framework as a whole. And we're taking a step back, of course, under the efficiency and effectiveness review and looking at our strategy and ensuring that we're focusing in the right areas. I will pass over to TK.
O ka pai o kia ora Simon, tuatahi rāmi ka tika kia koe te whanaunga Kirk nā au karakia I arahi pai tō tātou nei hui no reira tēnā koe, tēnā koutou, e ngā mema, ngā mana o te whenua o te matawa Māui tēnā tātou katoa. Yeah, so it's been awesome working with the team and just e tuku mihi ki a rātou, our science team have embraced and are really keen to weave in Mātauranga Māori, and you can see that in how the SOE is presented through the tuia framework, tuia ki te rangi, ki te whenua, ki te moana, ki te here tangata, ka rongo te pō, ka rongo te ao. So looking at those tohu from above, from the sky, from the whenua, from our waters, and of course us as people. And like Simon said, this is a new way of presenting this information based on the whakatauki tuia ki te rangi.
Nice.
I guess in regards to some of the design work, if you've seen the report, acknowledging Tā Manuhiri, who was able to work with us on these designs for each of the tuia, and has worked with us throughout the design of the document, so just acknowledging his work. And the specific section around Mātauranga inside the SOE has been work of many, and what we've tried to do, and Simon's already said, is that it's more of an educational piece. It's introducing Mātauranga for those that read the report to be more familiar with what Mātauranga is, and not specifically presenting monitoring that's been undertaken through Mātauranga monitoring programs, although that's the ambition for the next report. And then hopefully we'll speak to that a little bit more in item 10 today. But in regards to the details that are in that specific page, it's 2 pages within the document. It outlines the Te Ao Māori view. It speaks of key principles, and a holistic approach to Te Taiao, and also gives some examples around place names, around pūrākau, maramataka, those things that we would include as a part of Mātauranga monitoring. Kia ora.
Okay. Turn off. Cool. Kia ora tātou, ko Tony Oho. I am the science translator, as Simon said. So if you do have questions, I'm not the expert, but I can direct you to the wonderful people over there and over there who are. I'm going to present on our catchment. So this is sort of where all of these tuia elements come together. And if you do have the SOE report on your computer, or if you go and download it, each catchment will have its own landing page or its own dashboard near the end of the report, where you can go in and you can get a very, very quick summary of how our monitoring is affecting each and every catchment. So what I'm going to do is just go through the highlights and the lowlights of each catchment, what we're doing well here and what we might need to work on. And if you do have any questions, please save them for the end and one of the scientists may be able to answer those for you. Beautiful. Cool, so we'll start in the north with Northern Coast, starting with our water. All three of our monitoring sites for our lakes do have poor water quality, with quite very, very poor and 6.5 down in the Ruahine Channel. Our aquatic habitats, these wagon wheels just show a general sort of score for how these habitats, the water quality is rated. And you can see from the selection, Northern Coast has poor aquatic habitats, especially the riparian zones of the monitored waterways. But, however, our nearshore water quality is within the New Zealand range in all metrics. Northern Coast's freshwater swimming sites are not meeting Hawke's Bay Regional Council's strategic goal of being swimmable 80% of the time. Mahia Beach has been compliant with shellfish gathering since monitoring began, but Mangawhio Lagoon and Te Mahia consistently do not meet the shellfish monitoring guidelines. Beautiful. So our monitoring well in Wairoa is showing to be impacted by land use, with dissolved reactive phosphorus in high levels in our groundwater monitoring site, although it does comply with drinking water standards. Ammonia and nitrate and dissolved inorganic nitrogen, so they're the blue lines and the very light blue line at the end there. All in healthy amounts in the rivers in Wairoa. However, estuary sites are outside the New Zealand range in many metrics, so that's the red and the orange little wedges there. And Wairoa's freshwater swimming spots have only been suitable for swimming 33% of the time. Cool, on to Mohaka. So 40 of the 7 monitored groundwater wells exceed Drinking Water New Zealand standards for E. coli. So I should stress that these are not these are not groundwater wells that are used for drinking water, but it does show that they should be filtered, or the importance of treating groundwater before it is drunk. Dissolved inorganic nitrogen is strongly outside the New Zealand range in both our nearshore and estuary monitoring sites. However, ammonia and nitrate toxicity, again the blue bars on there, are mostly in good levels. And then for our marine areas, Enterococcai is strongly outside the New Zealand range in the Mohaka estuary. However, all other metrics in our estuary monitoring sites are within the New Zealand range. Beautiful. Onto the Esk and Central Coast catchment. One of our 8 monitored wetlands is degraded, but 4 are in moderate condition and 3 are in good condition. Our monitoring well in this area exceeds DWSNZ standards for arsenic and manganese, and there's high levels of dissolved reactive phosphorus in the groundwater as well. A high percent of our river monitoring sites are generally high in E. coli and dissolved reactive phosphorus. However, ammonia and nitrate levels are low. And near shore water quality is mostly within range. Waipatiki has not been compliant with shellfish gathering guidelines since 2021, and our freshwater swimming spots are only suitable for swimming 61% of the time. Ahuriri has used between 10 and 12 gigalitres of groundwater. Most of this is for drinking water. We can't draw trends from our water use, as we've experienced 2 outlying years in the past 5, so last year and 2019-2020. Cool. River and streams have high levels of dissolved reactive phosphorus and E. coli. They also have poor microinvertebrate communities. However, nitrates and dissolved inorganic nitrogen are at low levels. Our estuary sites are in very poor condition outside the New Zealand range for metrics, for all metrics except dissolved oxygen. And despite this, our estuary and lagoon swimming spots have been suitable for swimming 81% of the time. Our marine swimming spots have been swimmable for 91% of the time. However, Ahuriri estuary has not been compliant with shellfish gathering guidelines for the last 4 years. Cool. The 2 monitored wetlands in Tutaikuri are in good and excellent condition. Tutaikuri has used between 4 and 7 gigalitres of water per year for a range of uses, including drinking, irrigation and industrial uses. 1 groundwater well has been exceeded drinking water New Zealand standards for arsenic and E. coli. Again, not drinking water supplies, just groundwater wells. All wells are also showing impacts from phosphorus, so 100% of the tested wells show medium levels of dissolved reactive phosphorus. Ammonia and nitrate levels are low in all of the river monitoring sites, and river and stream banks, so again in the wagon wheels, are generally in good condition for our aquatic habitats. Tutaikuri's swimming spots are reaching the strategic goal of being suitable for swimming 85% of the time. Seven of our monitored wetlands in the Ngāruaroru are in good or excellent condition. However, the condition declines in the 2 wetlands that are further down the catchment. There are medium to high levels of dissolved reactive phosphorus in our 5 groundwater monitoring wells, and Ngāruaroru has used between 1 to 9 gigalitres of water each year, mostly for irrigation. Nearshore water quality is showing a lot of issues, including very high levels of chlorophyll A, fecal coliforms, and dissolved inorganic nitrogen, along with moderate levels of enterococcus. Estuaries are high in dissolved inorganic nitrogen and enterococcus. Freshwater swimming sites, however, have been suitable 91% of the time. On to the Karamu, which is one of our biggest water users. It's used between 30 and 46 gigalitres per year, mostly for drinking, irrigation and industrial purposes. And of our 22 monitoring well, more than a quarter have exceeded drinking standards for E. coli, and wells are showing medium to high levels of dissolved reactive phosphorus. River quality shows high levels of dissolved reactive phosphorus and E. coli with poor macroinvertebrate community indexes. Freshwater habitats are also in poor condition, especially the riparian areas. However, ammonia and nitrate levels in the streams are in great or good amounts, well not great or good. Freshwater swimming site, the freshwater swimming site was only suitable for swimming 59% of the time. Cool. So for the tuki-tuki, 4 of the upland wetlands are in good condition. Quality declines further down the catchment, although they are still in moderate condition. A large water user, there we go. It is used between 6 and 30 gigalitres of groundwater per year, mostly for irrigation. And a quarter of the 47 monitored wells have exceeded DWSNZ standards for E. coli. And again, not drinking water wells. So Lake Whatuma has very poor water quality, and also riparian areas of the river and streams are in poor conditions. And the freshwater swimming spots have been suitable for swimming 89% of the time. Cool. On to Southern Coast. Rivers and streams have good level of visual clarity, ammonia and nitrate, although sites have high level of E. coli, and more work needs to be done on the riparian areas of the aquatic habitats. The freshwater and marine spots have been suitable for swimming 90% of the time. However, the estuary and lagoon sites have only been swimmable 70% of the time. Te Wanga and Kairako Beach have not been compliant with shellfish gathering guidelines for the last 3 years. And lastly, Pōrangaho. River monitoring sites, have poor macroinvertebrate community indexes and have high amounts of E. coli. However, ammonia and nitrate are in low amounts in our river monitoring sites, and dissolved in organic nitrogen is below the ANZ trigger in all of our sites. Pōrangaho Estuary also tested outside the New Zealand range for 5 of the 8 metrics. And our marine swimming spots have been suitable for swimming 100% of the time. However, Pōrangaho Estuary has not been compliant for shellfish gathering guidelines for the last 5 years. Cool. And if you have questions about that.
Yep.
Just before we get on to questions, I think it might be worthwhile also.
Can I stop you there first? Otherwise, we'll turn into a long day. I can hear 1,001 questions for each of those areas, and that's fine. I appreciate the data that has been gathered. I appreciate the way that it's been presented. But it's actually getting back out to each of these rohe, each of these hapu, each of these waterways, and having a wānanga with our whānau and our marae and our mana whenua who live in those areas. And actually, first and foremost, analysing those statistics that we've gathered, understanding how they actually come about. I think the other thing that was missing from out of that data is we don't speak about some of the programs that are taking place to actually improve that. And I think that sits hand in hand with that. But in the rest of that, we take the rest of the day talking just about this presentation and nothing else, is that there's general acceptance that we understand what the data is, we understand what the presentation is. What's important here is actually the follow-up. It's the engagement. That's what's needed to make sense of that. Would that be a fair indication? Aye. That's what we're all wanting to see. That's what that told me. Each of us would take a whole day. So there's a wānanga there for each of us. And it's just more than a day. It's over a period of time. But it's a commitment that's actually required, Nick, to make sense of this.
All right.
I'll pass it over to you, Nick, for your comment.
Thank you, Chair. And look, I agree. I think this is a once over lightly of a lot of important information, and equally there's information coming back from those hapu and marae about what they see. So I think if rather than the committee diving into the detail of all of that, maybe we take some guidance from this committee that you'd like to see a plan come back from this team together with Te Wairama's team around how we might be able to engage with those different parts of the region on the results here, and importantly, how can we all work together to turn the red stuff into blue or green?
Can we make that meaningful engagement?
Aye.
Are we happy with that as being the outcome?
Oh, absolutely. And if I can just add to that too as well, just acknowledge the team and all of the various contributions that are keeping oversight to the various amounts of data in a number of different regions. And I guess it really does highlight, I guess you've got a lot that's going on. And of course, us back on the ground, I think there's another element of a huge commitment of interest that's going back down into these various regions located throughout the whole of Hawke's Bay. I guess we've got our own insights, mātauranga, as we've been talking about this morning. And it does provide, I guess, an innovative contribution, given that the report, of course, is between 22 and 24. And you'd really like to kind of get something that really denotes, and this is really keeping your team going in terms of, okay, from 24 to 25 to up to date now, what are also those really important indicators to tell us, in a moment's notice, rather than reflecting back a year or two ago, how these trends, and the trends don't look all that good, but it'd really be good to know right up to date. And I mean, an example of that, of course, is, our Tainui whānau. Before, the central government decides to take exception to all of this, I think it's wonderful that the team have got their hand on the pulse and agree with our chairman here that we have got a contribution that I'm sure that will help to support this kind of the Western science role going along with the mātauranga, the huge amount of effort that's going on in terms of providing oversight into this huge region, the outposts of our people that are already out there taking an interest and actually providing back and supporting our own learnings of mātauranga. You've got some really good specialist people inside your team. We've got a huge interest base of our whānau from Wairoa Mahia right down to Central Hawke's Bay, Here Taonga, that are putting a reach out when they have wānanga, when we have hui, and the sorts of information that we can contribute together to actually give us a very much clear, up-to-date picture in terms of the state of the environment. So just to the presentations, but support our chairman. How do we get that reach back down on the ground?
Vital. Māori raises a really good issue. That was made in a council meeting we had, Māori Standing Committee we had yesterday. All very well. I also like to endorse commending the starter, but what does that mean in terms of now? That was the question that Nathan had to field yesterday, and he was pressed time and time again. How does that impact us now? What's the relevance of it now? That's my one of the issues. So just to support what Māori had to offer them.
Airere?
Yeah, just mostly got 101 questions, but Kei te Pai, I support what Mike's saying in regards to just coming back and looking at mostly some of that data and some of the detail, and then I suppose just the key points that come up in regards to the estuary and ahuriri, and our whānau have been told they can't collect kaimoana and that, and then when we look at the mātauranga, the science and the KPIs behind that, be interesting how that's incorporated into that process. So I suppose that's just a direct impact when you say, hey, no, don't get any mussels, and it has an impact on them, and then just the estuary, obviously concerns around there, and then following up, I suppose when you talk about data, I remember a number of years ago in this committee, we talked about the upper moʻhaka and the nitrogen levels, and there were a whole lot of changes made up in the top end of the moʻhaka with the dairy pumps, and then just, as a monitoring tool, just to see before the implementation in regards to the mahi that went up there, and then what the current state was, current state, because obviously that would be a model that we can reflect on, that mahi was done 10 or 15 years ago, and then it'd be good to see what state that's in with the current changes that made. So that's support what Mike's saying, and I look forward to follow up. Thank you.
Now, I'm sure if Papa Paura Sasha was here, he would have 2001 questions in regards to this. But I take the point of what's happening in regards to the lake and the work that's been done there, especially with Dr. Marker and his lawpi. So I think, that's the type of stuff that gives some of that context about, yes, we know what the statistics are, but it's how do we change it? And by that, working together. So I hope that's helped in regards to a pathway forward.
It is, and I wanted to sort of pretty much say a similar thing, and luckily Nicola's over there, which is great, and we've been having conversations around how do we make this more meaningful. And one of the slides, I'll just real quick, that I mentioned around that connection with the efficiency effectiveness assessment around the plan. That's our regulatory side of trying to make improvements. We obviously have our non-regulatory ones of planning, and so we've been having these conversations around what does it mean for how we make changes to try and see these things improve. And so hopefully going forward with the work with the planning team and Nicola, we can come up with a better framework to help answer those questions.
Cool. But anything further in regards to the...
Kia ora, that's
really helpful. Yep. So, take your question. Come up to the screen. Katarina, and then we'll go to Thompson.
Kia ora, thank you for the report. Yes, our community needs to be engaged a little bit more, and so how can this kōrero get down to the grassroots of our community? When you hear that Wairo's 33% in season, you know, it's not swimmable, and yeah, that's going to be quite something to you know, share back to the community. And what can we do at that level? There was something else that was really important. The real time. A lot of the state of environment reports is like a 1 month in delay. How's that going to help us to react, you know, with all these flood events? So is there any forethought to some real time radar on the bridges, some real time data for, and maybe this is where our mana whenua groups have their little leeway into their monitoring around their mahinga kai and swimmability of the river. What I'm trying to say is, how can we have some of that real-time data, a warning signal, a warning that you know, it's going to rain, it is raining, but, you know, can we have some real time? So the forethought around that, not trying to make more expense, we can look into these IoT devices that are more mesh orientated. When are we going to start looking at that kind of stuff? So thank you for the data, but at the same time, you can see the missing gap, but how do we get this kōrero back down to our community? So I heard, I could feel Paura around Porangahau, I could feel Whātuma, I can feel Wairau, I can feel Whakake, I can feel Māhia. Nathan, what are we going to do? How do we engage with our people around all of these things? I mean, it's all good telling them a month later, oh, this is what's happening. But we've got to be real. Our people there every day, action people, not just AI. Kia ora.
Thank you. Thompson?
Kia ora tātou, tēnā koe te hiamana. Thanks, team. Hey, look, in regards to Porangahau, and I know that, you know, it may not be able to be answered here today, but I need to flag it. There was I think in a previous workshop, was identified that there was a particular toxin that was being discharged, and there wasn't enough, I guess, resource to investigate that. But we're talking summer's coming up, and our babies, you try and stop our mokopuna from swimming in that awa. And so we can't stop them from swimming in that awa, but I think we have to do something, anything, to identify where that's coming from. Yeah.
Kia ora, Thompson. Nick, did you want to answer?
I think, Councillor Hawke raised that, and I think the team are having a look now at what it would do. I think the one in Porangahau is the fecal source tracking, so high E. coli. Where's it coming from? Is it coming naturally? Is it coming from septic tanks? Wherever. So we're just costing out what the next step might be in that mahi.
Cool.
Thank you.
Paula? Final one, Paul.
If I could just say, while you're getting the report, I Googled phosphorus and I Googled nitrates, and they both come from the same place, from a fertiliser on the land. And when you Google, what's the other one on there? E. coli, it comes from humans or cows or sheep. So, at what stage would you guys say enough is enough? We've got to do something. When you see the reports creeping up like that?
Our role generally is to provide information on what impact is going to happen from different activities.
Yeah.
And then it goes towards the community and the planners to make a decision on where that trade-off is. Because there's always a trade-off, particularly, say, in groundwater space, E. coli. To be honest, you're not going to remove it. You know, you have ecosystems that are vulnerable. If you want land use to occur in any form, you're going to be vulnerable to it, and so you have to make that trade-off. So what we typically do in our space is provide different scenarios. If you want to have this type of land use, this type of intensification, what does it mean? That then goes forward to the community and the planners they put in the mix with obviously a huge number of other factors. In some cases, it might be a very strong cultural value in an area. It might be a very strong economic value in the area, and they trade it off, and the community makes a decision. So we, in many cases, avoid saying this is what it'll be. We'll go, what do you want it to be? This is what has to happen, or this is what we think has to happen.
But you have got a regulatory process because that's a prime focus of regional council. So
We
if
do.
someone's exceeding pollution levels, or you've got a responsibility, or the council has to act in regards to that.
So there are some hard limits on some areas. So we've got the National Objective Framework, which has a bottom line that we have to meet. There's drinking water standards that, we have to maintain as well. So nitrate, we can't be, above 11.3 milligrams per litre. So there are some limits and some attributes that we must maintain through national direction. But others there's not, and it's a community-led discussion around where that balance lies.
And so just highlighting, because obviously public safety is an important factor, and then just as an example, in Prongahau with E. coli, and last thing we want kids swimming in vulnerable areas and getting sick. So we just need to make sure that we're on top of that. That's the point. Thank you.
So on behalf of the team, on behalf of the committee, say thank you to everybody in regards to the various sciences. Thank you for making the time today come along. You surprised me when you all walked through the door. Okay, once again, we look forward to receiving a paper from operations in regards to how we carry out that engagement. When is that to happen? The sooner the better. And we look forward to that being well communicated, so we get the best possible response we can from our communities with regards to the engagement. So thank you. Can I get a second on the mover? Thank you, Māori. Thank you, Katalaina. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye, aye. Thank you. Carried. Cheers, guys. We're moving along to agenda item 7. Statutory advocacy and resource management reforms update.
Wait a
Enjoy the rest of the day, guys. When you're ready.
Through you, Chair, just introducing to the table, and a reminder for all, we have Nicola Nicholson, who is our Manager of Policy and Planning, and Saul joining her today to take us through the statutory advocacy update, and just an update on RM reform also.
Sorry, we're just
trying. One moment before we get our slides.
Maybe through you, Chair, just as by way of introduction, while the team are getting the tech to work, I can't recall a more uncertain time in terms of where we've been trying to go, and your colleagues on the Regional Planning Committee, I think, are tearing their hair out that every time we try and advance a plan, we have a change of view from Wellington, and it is making that part of the business of all of us as a community, but of the Regional Council, really difficult to navigate, because the goalposts don't just shift, 5 metres, they shift from the football pitch to the rugby pitch. So it's a challenging wee time, but the mahi that's going on around things like values associated with freshwater, and particularly around natural hazards, is still going to be important. It's just how do we get it into a regulatory process and a statutory process is the wee challenge at the moment. So I just thought that might be some useful context for the committee.
And then if you think back to Three Waters and then all that mahi that went on, in regards to implementing that process, and then we've had to go for a big change, so we put a lot of effort into that, Nicola, and yourselves, and then now we're having to go through a regulatory change. It's been major after all that mahi and money that we put into it. So we share that same corridors. Change.
Not the same. Excellent. Kia ora koutou, thank you for having us back again. Like Wairama said, I'm Nicola, and I have got Saul, one of my planners, in my team with me, so we thought we'd run through the statutory advocacy update. We'll take the paper as read, but just highlight like a few key points that have come out of that paper. I'll pass over to Saul to run you through these.
Okay, like Nicola said, take the paper as read, but a couple of the key points are largely the first one is reforming the resource management system, which was the amendment bill that passed into law on the 20th of August. And then there was the program of new and amended national direction. So that was all the new NPSs and NESs that are proposed. There was a large piece of consultation with central government that we provided a submission on. Then there's the local government water services bill, which is set down for its second reading, and also the Napier City Council proposed district plan hearings. So policy and planning staff presented to multiple hearings, but the latest hearings were both hearing stream 8, which related to the ecosystems and biodiversity variation, and hearing stream 6A, which was around rezoning. And then there's the Marine and Coastal Area, the Takuta Moana Act, which is a ongoing process, hearings continue, and Plan Change 7, outstanding freshwater bodies, which was made operative on the 29th of August.
Oh, good.
Is any partai? We'll move into some of those slides, or just any partai.
Did that answer your question? Sorry, did that answer your question, Mate?
It sure does.
Perfect.
Oh, thank you.
Easy. So I appreciate there's a lot of words on this slide, so I will try and talk us through them in an easy way possible. But as we're transitioning into the new resource management system, the government wanted to do some tidy ups to the RMA that we currently have and we're working under. And so this was what was known as the Consent and Other System Changes Amendment Bill. There was a number of things came out of that. I'll highlight some of the kind of the key points. The first one was around energy and infrastructure. So thermal electricity generation is now included in that specific energy activity, and any resource consents that we're getting for those, and wood processing must be processed within 1 year, so looking to speed that process up. We also received through this amendment a plan stop, so we'll go into that in more detail after this, but basically it has halted plan making processes except for where there are exemptions. We've also had some restrictions on reviewing conditions of the extended coastal permits until 2030. So the reviews that are allowed are just in relation to that adaptive management or specific triggers. We have got new powers coming in to allow the Minister to modify or remove plan regulations, provisions, if they hinder economic growth. They expire at the end of 2027, so it's just in this transition period. There's new rules introduced controlling fisheries and fishing, which must meet the strict criteria and require the MPI and Director General concurrence on those, and they must assess the impacts on commercial and non-commercial fishing. We've had changes for freshwater farm plans to try and simplify that certification and auditing process which is associated with them, and it clarifies when plans are required and who can certify and audit them, including industry certification on those. In terms of our compliance and enforcement space, courts can now revoke or suspend consents for significant non-compliance, and companies can no longer have insurance against fines. The penalties have also increased significantly, up to $1 million for individuals and $10 million for companies. We also now have new powers to make temporary regulations for natural hazard events. And these can override the normal RMA processes for up to 3 years, so that would have been quite helpful and has probably been informed partially from our feedback following Cyclone Gabrielle. Designations and notice of requirements clarifies when alternatives can be considered and requires a more detailed assessment of environmental effects. And then there's just some transitional provisions around when and how new rules can apply in the existing applications and processes. So that's really probably in that consenting space. And the real big one that came out of this for us was the plan stop. So while we're going through this transitionary or kind of transition period, the government has said that we're to stop work on all plan reviews, policy statements, changes or variations, except for there is a few exemption pathways. And so one of those is any proposed plan or part of the plans which relates to natural hazards. So we're currently underdoing a review of our RPS, which was highlighted in the HBIFR report, so that work can continue. There's some exemptions around housing growth, urban development and treaty settlement obligations as well. And there is the ability to apply to the Minister for an exemption to continue work on plans. So that was probably the big bit coming out of that amendment bill. And then sitting alongside the amendment bill, we also had the National Direction Package. It had 4 key areas: the infrastructure, primary sector, freshwater and housing growth. So there was a bunch of new MPSs introduced and some amendments. Up in the infrastructure and development box, we had some amendments to electricity generation and telecommunications. They also had the introduction of a new national environmental standard for granny flats, papakāinga and natural hazards. Primary sector, we had a lot of amendments made through from marine aquaculture, commercial forestry, our coastal policy statement, highly productive land, some stock exclusion and tidy up around the mining and quarrying provisions. Freshwater was significant, sought some amendments around the rebalancing of Te Mana o Te Wai, water storage, cost and pace of change and some commercial vegetable growing. Also some tweaks around fish passage and fertiliser reporting. And then we had some housing growth. That was the 4th part of the package, which was looking to free up land and that infrastructure funding and finance to support urban growth, as well as looking for those incentives to have that growth. So I understand there's probably a lot in there and I've rattled through it really quickly, but I think that is probably a good indication of how quickly this government is moving and how much stuff is coming at us. So yeah, happy to answer any questions. But
Nick, can I come to you first, please, from CCO?
I think, and I'll ask Nicola and Saul to confirm it, but overall what the package of works that the government have proposed, or changes the government have enacted to make a more permissive regulatory regime. I think that's the overall effect of all of these things added together. So the government is pursuing an agenda really around private property rights and a more permissive regulatory process. So that is what's being reflected now into the way that the regional council is required to give effect to this sort of work. I don't know, Nicola, if that's a fair summary of the majority.
yeah, I would agree with that, and I think we've seen some fairly strong signals of the direction that this government's travelling in, and I think these changes are reflecting those.
Nicola, would we see a change in process in regards to how regional council notifies in regards to consents? So we currently have a process where you notify, you give the notification out as to where it's sitting, as whether it's a notified, non-notified, et cetera, back to our postman entity groups, whether it's Taiwhena, iwi, et cetera. Will we see a change in that?
So my understanding is in the current system, no, not from any of the tweaks that I have seen. Moving into the new system and the new legislation, we haven't seen the details enough. What we've got from the government still at this stage is very high level. We are expecting to see some draft legislation potentially October, November, December this year, which might have some more detail in it. What I can say is that our consents team have been working with or they've had an initial hui with the PSGEs just around that notification process and making sure that they've got all of their processes working as well as possible. So while we are not seeing anything from a national level, we're working hard within HBRC to make sure that the process we're following are good ones as well. And so we've also been doing extra work around looking at the Māori planning documents that we have in place, iwi hapa management plans, cultural value reports and things like that, to make sure that we're really understanding those and embedding those within the organisation.
Really appreciate the fact that you're engaging with our postman entity groups. Can I ask if you could consider just going a bit wider than just our postman entity groups? If you like, the pushback doesn't just come from our postman entity groups, it does come from our wider Māori communities as well. Yeah. Kia ora. Nick, did you have anything else?
I think that the direction of travel the government's indicating in for the replacement of the Resource Management Act will likely see us with fewer consents, more permitted activities, and a regulatory process that is designed to enforce those permitted activities, but less involvement in consenting. I think for this committee, as you come into the period just before Christmas, and it always seems to be just before Christmas, it's going to be important to hear your feedback so that submissions to the government on the replacement of the Resource Management Act from this council are well informed.
Cool. With any other partai from the tupu?
Hey, Nicola, thanks very much. I'm just kind of wanting to give a little bit of feedback in terms of the way you framed up each of the particular aspects, and also provided, I didn't realise until I found it really handy, giving some insights in terms of the updates, the topic, the potential impact. So thanks very much for that. That was really helpful. I think too also, and it may not be insofar as statutory, but you've got to contemplate and put your kind of headlights out where this crazy government is going, and that one of those, of course, is private ownership and ratepayer base. Now, on record, we have a social impact assessment, for example, that took a snapshot of the Karamu catchment, and an interesting turnover of circumstances was around a 70% ownership ratepayer base turned over every 10 years. And you go, oh my God, gee. So the ones that are the 30% are obviously the long-term stayers that have been here for over 1,000 years, plus a few farmers. And so you've got to match up where the shift of equal rights, when it does come down to a ratepayer base, their input into things when they're so constantly turning over. And I just raised that amongst kind of all the other bits and pieces of analysis that we've got to take into consideration. And notwithstanding too also, I know we're not supposed to talk about that little elephant in the room, but geez, at times you got to wonder where of course the tank is going to be in amongst the climate that we got. And of course with the kotahi now that they're saying, is it in, is it out, and all of that effort that's going on, and then, oh my God, Father, does your head in. We're all under attack, and I do appreciate the fact that, we're trying to make the best of everything. Making submissions back to all of those bits and pieces up there, it was a freaking nightmare in terms of just where does this all go on, particularly online, online kind of input stuff. So, it's more of a statement than a question. Sorry about that, yeah.
I totally hear you there, Māori, and I think Simon touched on it before with really understanding what our issues are in the area, and the planning framework can change and come and go, but our environmental issues in our region will always be our environmental issues. And so if we really understand those, then that will stand us in good stead. But totally hear your point about the number of submissions that have been coming and going.
Well, thank you. There's no further questions, so I just
had one point, because I remember years ago we all went through the RMA training for commissioners, and that I noticed there's been a big drop-off. Obviously, years ago we went through the training, we got trained up as commissioners and that, but with the changes in that coming in and the expiry dates, I just noticed, because I think you yourself done it, I done it, there was a few of us that all done it, but I just noticed that the majority of people that done it when we done it, they have dropped off in regards to updating their commission training. I don't know in the future it's something whether we look back at, but we've carried that can for a few years, Māori, when you look at them, we've got new members coming on board, and whether that's a good skill or something that they should look at. Okay, thank you.
Overload. Councillor?
Kia ora, through you, Chair. Just back one slide, back again. Just this, the powers now for the minister to modify or remove plan provisions if they hinder economic growth. I mean, that sounds like a huge risk. What would you expect of that, or what could be possible under that?
I'm not really sure I can give you an answer on that. It's not really something that I've seen. I'm not sure if Nick has got any more intel.
I don't have any particular insight other than it's a fairly strong power for a minister to be able to reach into a plan. My understanding is that it's there to try and deal with issues that might be causing challenges in advance of their new replacement to the RM system coming into place. It's probably useful that it's time bound, but it's a strong provision for a minister to intervene.
So it hasn't raised any particular red flags amongst the team for us
It hasn't come in,
specifically?
not for us at the moment, but I think we've seen the government intervene, particularly around things like the Otago Regional Council's plan changes and some others. So I think we have to be alert to any issues in plans that might arrive on ministers' desks.
Yes.
At the moment.
Thank you.
No seabed mining out here in the bay.
There's no further questions. Can I ask Anna and Councillor Shees if they'd be the movers and seconder? Thank you. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Ben. All those in favour, please say aye. Thank you. Carried. Thank you very much, team. Okay, so before lunch, we've got 4 items here, which is going to Wairama is going to cover off.
Tēnā koutou. What I might do, if the committee doesn't mind, is I might invite up the whole Māori Partnerships team to guide us through these next few papers. I'll have them introduce them or reintroduce themselves to you all. But just before we kick into that, I do want to acknowledge a member of our team who's not here today. Ashley Keenan has worked alongside the Māori Partnerships team as our mana whenua engagement coordinator for flood resilience projects. Ashley completed her Masters in Indigenous Knowledge Systems and Climate Adaptation, doing some work here in Kahungunu, and has been invited to complete her PhD. So as sad as we are to lose her, we wish her well. What a credit to her whānau, and the communities that have raised her. He mokopuna no te pakipakitanga o Hine Toa. So we just wanted to acknowledge that for this committee and soon some time to the team. Tēnā koutou.
Kia ora tātou, sorry, one moment while I just...
That's right, we can just do introductions really quick again, please.
Yeah. Kia ora tātou, kia ora aku rangatira, ko Jack Smith Bellingham tōku ingoa. I'm a Māori Partnerships Manager here with Regional Council. Coming up 3 years in November, really enjoying my time here, and I'm just going to tinker around with this while our team introduces ourselves.
Tēnā koutou anō, noko nei au, Ngāti Pārau, Ngāti Hine Parengai tāwhao me Ngāti Mahu oku hapu, kei waiho hiki a au e noho ana, o te kaha Hawaii tōku ingoa, aka TK. My role is kai hautu pūtaia, mātauranga Māori. So some of the kōrero that I'll be sharing today is about my role, but I also work with our IPMO team, our Infrastructure Program Management Office. They're delivering all the Category 2 stop bank works and other asset management works, and work with them as a mana whenua advisor.
Tēnā tātou, ko Nathan Heath tōku ingoa. I'm your Māori Relationship Manager for Northern Hawke's Bay. Kia ora.
Kia ora tātou. Me kōrero pēnei. E rua tau ka wehe, e rua tau mārama, e rua tau kai. E pari te tai, e tumu anō. Ai whē tēnei tai i tēnei wā. E koere te pātai, koere te wero, kei mui a tātou i tēnei wā. Ngere ka ki atu ki a tātou, koutou ngā tau ihu o ngā waka, o ngā marae, puritia kia mau kia ita, ngā tā mairangi, tā mai nuku, te kauwairunga te kauwairaro, kia ngā whakamua mo te reanga kei te heke mai. Nō reira tēnā tātou, ko e tini tipena matua hau, nō poranga hau tonu, engari ka tūhono tātou katoa ki tēnā marae kei waingini a tātou. Io no konei te reo, whiu taku titiro ki tēnei hui hui ngā kaiwhia rā tamatea, kaiwhia a Roger Paurama, tū moge moge au tēnei, io no, kei te pai, me tū, hei hāpai tō mātou nei, wahanga o tamatea ka nui te mi kia tātou katoa, tēnā tātou.
Kia ora koutou, he tika nā kōrero a te tāhai nei. Me mi atu kia koutou e kawe nei nā wawata me nā moe moe a o nā marae me nā hapu o tō tātou. Oi, e mahi nui tā koutou te hara mai. Ki te whakarono me te kawe i nā wawata. Nui, kairimi o tātou whānau. Nō reira, tēnei rā te mi. Ko ai ahau, ko te rangi hau Gilbert ahau. Ko taku mahi i konei, Senior Māori Advisor. And in the space of building cultural capability. E mahi nui tēnā i waina nui tō mātou rōpū o HPRC, engari he rahi nā mahi kua kōti a mātou, he rahi tonu nā mahi kai te haere, nā kai te rika hau ki te kōrero ki te whakamara mātu ki a koutou e tahi o aua mahi nei mātou. So looking forward to be able to share with you some of the mahi that I've been doing in my space with regards to building cultural capability with our whānau here at HPRC. Tēnā koutou.
Tēnā koutou, and through you, Chair, we are just awaiting IT really briefly, just to get us back online, but might turn some time to Nick really quickly, if that's okay.
Well, so we can carry on, and I take it we are able to put the Bissing stuff up online at a later date.
Okay.
Cool, we'll do that. Carry on. Haere Tom.
Okay. If you want me to, I can go while you do that. Okay, I'll just introduce the paper.
So kia ora. So today's paper, we're just giving an update on key updates from Māori partnerships on frameworks, cultural capability initiatives, and engagement as well. So the teams all got a part to play in this, and we've all come up just to talk about where we're at with some of those key po, and to seek some feedback if there's any. I'm just going to hand it over to Te Kaha. Te Kaha's going to introduce the mahi that he's been doing, and we'll take through it. There's about 6 items to touch on.
Ka pai, kia ora Jack. My item today's item 10, it's on page 21. It's the Mātauranga monitoring update. We'll take it as read, if that's okay. But we'll provide some details regarding the update to the Te Kāpuhu framework and the Mātauranga monitoring initiatives. So for Te Kāpuhu, our framework last update, we presented the current version of Te Kāpuhu, and thank you for the positive feedback when we last called up. And I think we also mentioned that we were looking to apply that framework to a pilot project, which is reimagining rivers. In regards to the pilot program, and a little bit of an update, we've worked with the Mana Whenua reps as a part of the technical advisory group of that project. So on that is Mana Whenua reps is Shade, Ngaio, Diane and Gareth. We've completed some key actions under the ngā whare component of the Kāpuhu framework, Te Kāpuhu framework, and just a kind of refresher of the ngā whare key actions that we go through, or key kind of boxes we go through to make sure that we've got actions across the weaving mātauranga into those projects. Into the project. So we've got 20 key actions that have come out of working through that process. And here's some examples of some of the actions that are included in that component of the Kāpuhu. So one is the integration of the mana awa, mana whenua, mana tangata work that Nikki had completed, or is ongoing, but have done a good chunk of work, and that work includes wānanga that they've held with whānau and the Ngaruroro and the Tukituki, and modelling the catchment with the different options that they had discussed with the whānau. So that's a piece of work that they've already done, and how do we harmonise that work with the wider work that's been done with the project. Engage mana whenua with unique flood experiences and histories at marae, ensuring localised knowledge is acknowledged as at site-specific, not generalised, and develop a database of hapu narratives and priorities. Resource and support for mana whenua participation, including mana whenua chosen experts. Present regular updates to the Māori committee on the integration of mātauranga alongside engineering options. So that's just a flavour of some of the actions that come out of going through the process of the use of te kāpuhu. Like I said, there was about 20 actions that come out of that. Our next steps for that is that we're going to present those actions to the steering group. So forgive me if you're not across the whole structure of the reimagining flood resilience, but you've got Hawke's Bay Regional Council, you've got 2 steering groups, one for the Heretonga Plains, one for the Tukituki, and across that is the Technical Advisory Group. You've got a number of you've got a stakeholder group, which will be made up of community reps and then focus groups that sit under that. So just painting that picture. But so the steering group for each catchment, 2 steering groups, will be presenting those actions back to the group. On there, sitting mana whenua reps from PSGEs. So we'll take those actions, say, how does this look? Provide some feedback, and then we'll work with our team on how we can best weave those actions into the plan. As for Te Kāpuhu as a whole outside the project, we're continuing to review and refine the compass as we learn lessons along the way. And the objective is to make it simple, user-friendly, while ensuring it achieves its purpose and greater integration of mātauranga. In addition to the pilot project, we've just seen this morning the inclusion of mātauranga in the SOE monitoring, and that kind of works towards that pai tawhiti. One of those components is how does, within council, do we better reflect and include mātauranga across our organisation. So that's it for Te Kāpuhu. In regards to the mātauranga monitoring review, so we've undertaken a desktop review, or a bit of a stop count of different programs that are operating. We established an internal HBRC group from that, and through that desktop review, we've identified 15 different mātauranga monitoring programs that are underway in Te Matawa Māui. Sorry, they're either underway or just been completed. These are, so there's a number of programs that include a mixture of the SOE monitoring. So our team today that presented, they've been working with a few different groups. I'll just, I can highlight those specifically. A lot of them are consent-driven monitoring programs. I can give some examples of those, and also mana whenua-led initiatives. In regards to a little bit of detail around which monitoring programs we've been able to pick up. So for the SOE and place-based monitoring, so the team that you'd seen in the back with the SOE monitoring, they had been working on Pūtiri, Runanga, Whakaki and Whātuma. So they've been working with whānau there and supporting whānau there. However, it's worth highlighting that some of that monitoring's been put on pause. So I think there's an opportunity for the committee here to be able to not only promote sites that you think should be a part of regular monitoring, but maybe just support the ongoing monitoring of some of these key sites with our SOE team. The consent-driven monitoring programs, there's the gravels consent through the Tukituki, the Ngaruroro and the Tūtaikuri. So that's ongoing, so I don't think that started, but They're in the planning stages for that. The West Shore tidal gates, the Napier Port, Pampack out for Thames Tyne Street and the managed aquifer all have conditions associated with resourcing monitoring. So there's 6 or 7 programs there just through resource consent conditions. Acknowledging the Ngā Pau Mātara that Māori's led, that's at a completed stage now, but we're working with the team there and potentially linking up into the gravels space for monitoring in that space. The Whiti Order, Tātou o Te Wairo, that was completed. There's the likes of the Māori Compass, the Papanui Māori Monitoring Framework, the Kārewa Rewa Whakaeke. So those are some of the programs that we've been able to take that stock count on. Again, there's about 15 of those. Our next steps are external engagement is needed to better understand the different programs, get a little bit more detail across it. And there's probably 3 key areas that we want to move forward on. One is how can we include the current mātauranga monitoring programs inside the reporting framework. So that was obviously something that was identified this morning that we've got a gap around. How can we better do that? And I guess that's working with each of these groups that are delivering these programs and say, hey, what does the shared data look like? Second is how can we better include mātauranga in our current monitoring program? So that's with our science team, our SOE team. How can we better understand that? And I kind of mentioned before that if we get to annual and long-term plans and there's specifics around there that you just want to push for collectively around monitoring, then that might be something you might want to look at doing. And how can we support ongoing or new mātauranga monitoring programs in the future? So that might be looking at the long-term plan as well, and how can funding be kind of manoeuvred to support potential programs moving forward. So, yep, quite up. That's all. Cool.
Just not so much a question, more a comment. As you said, there's a number of monitoring projects that take place. It would be helpful for us to know what they are, what are they monitoring, and what's the frequency of that monitoring that's taking place. So we're able to give you input into whether we think that's enough or more should be happening or somewhere else should be considered to be monitored. And I think it's just a continuation of, as you said, this morning's conversation, TK. And I think once we get that engagement going properly, I think a lot of that will actually start to gel as to how we can get better value of what currently Hawke's Bay Regional Council is doing, and working with mana whenua, working with our communities to get the best value out for everybody. Kia ora.
Thanks, TK. We'll just move along.
I suppose I just took what Mike said, and it might be a roadmap or something, something easy visual that we can just look at and think, oh yeah, cool, that's happened there. It'll be just a good, doesn't have to be a big report, just something simplistic that we can just quickly gauge. Awesome.
Kia ora. Just a quick reminder, Māori Partnerships, we've got about 10 minutes to get through these papers.
I think my item was 15, so it probably saved us some time.
Thank you, TK. Just moving on. So, mana whenua documents framework. I originally brought this to you in the framing of iwi hapu management plan framework. What we have done since the last meeting is expanded the scope of this framework to encompass all mana whenua documents instead of just iwi hapu management plans, understanding that the approach that we've got, receive, socialise, embed and integrate, actually applies to all mana whenua documents in saying that there is inherent value in integrating mana whenua documents throughout the organisation, not just iwi hapu management plans, understanding and realising the taonga that they are, the mātauranga that they have, the values and the aspirations that they share with the organisation. So this framework endeavours to integrate all Māori mana whenua documents throughout the organisation And as you can see on the screen, and the blue circles are just a few examples of what those could be and where they could end up and impact the organisation. So this work has been carried out by Nathan, Shelley and myself. So just a quick update on the pivot that we're doing there.
I suppose just an example, when if I go back 10, 15 years ago when we were all here, then when Mike was here and he done mahi with the regional council, he used to say about, and I know Te Kaha, we didn't let Tūtakaria our plan, but then I always reflect on his comment about how it was put in a drawer and the drawer was closed. So it's good to see, hey, those plans have pride in place now, because you points in time you remember conversations, and that were always stuck in my mind that, hey, we done these mahi on all these plans and they were just put in a drawer and they didn't add any value. So it's good to see. I mean, obviously if they're adding value and what the measure, the KPI be around those plans, because obviously if you can measure it, you can manage it. So yeah, it's good to see that diagram, and we just reflect back, obviously as a Māori committee where we've been and what we've come to, so just acknowledge that mahi. Mahi ora.
Too much mahi goes into those plans to just have them sit in the drawer, and they offer too much to the organisation. So realising that's the intention behind that. Moving on, we'll probably tag team this one, TK and myself. So currently just reviewing our engagement frameworks throughout the organisation. TK led out the Mana Whenua engagement framework for the IPMO and is currently doing a review on that, given that we've had some time in the saddle, learning some lessons. We also brought the Māori engagement framework and the Māori engagement tool to the committee, I think at the start of the year, and updated you guys that we had done a quick refresh on these plans, on these frameworks, and that we would do a more depth review going forward. We've currently put this on hold just with reform coming through in the RMA, given that these frameworks and tools hinge greatly on the legislation that they afford this organisation. So we will continue to find ways to educate the organisation on how to engage with Māori, but push out the review of these frameworks a little bit more. Did you want to add anything more else about the... Okay, cool. Te Pai Tata, I'll hand over to Te Rangiho just to talk about some of our cultural capability initiatives.
Kia ora no tātou, o tira ware hau kia kōrua, Thompson, kōrua ko Kakaraina. The mahi that we've been doing in the space of building up cultural capability, I guess this is at this time of the year, September, where we celebrate Mahuru Māori. And I'm not too sure if everybody understands what Mahuru Māori is, which is the celebration of our reo, including Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori, which is coming up. What we're doing here is utilising this month to awhi our staff, to help them look at ways of being able to use Te Reo Māori with quizzes. We've got a Te Reo Waiata competition, and added to that, upstairs we have a dedicated room that we've given the name of Tū Hono Rau, which means the coming together of many, for the one purpose of awhiing the kaupapa. And just want to thank our Alpo and Nick for being able to provide us with a space like that, because it's really important when we're doing this sort of mahi to be able to have a dedicated space, where previously we've had real classes and all that sort of stuff, and you've got to find somewhere to hold them, because meeting rooms and everything get used up. So to be able to teach our tikanga and our reo, having a dedicated space like Tū Hono Rau is really important for us. And it's just upstairs on the first floor. And today we're going to be having a karakia to sort of officially open it. And moving forward, we're going to have hold some different kaupapa in there, beginning tomorrow with a kaputi and kōrero, which is what we've put out through our comms team, which makes available to our staff the opportunity to come along and have a kōrero to us. And we've got different themes throughout this month. and that'll continue on throughout the rest of this year. So that's pretty much all I have to say, really. I guess the last one I'll finish off with is something I've been really excited in being a part of, is doing some videos, utilising my Māori communications background and being able to produce some videos looking at kupu Māori, whether it's our awa, our maunga, or places. The one we did this morning, just before this hui, was our values, which are, and we had a review of those values just lately: maramatanga, manakitanga, whanaungatanga, kotahitanga, and ngā kaupū. So it's providing not just a Māori face to that, but also assisting our staff to be able to speak our reo and pronounce the kupu properly. Kia ora tātou.
Good to see those tongues are still useful.
Just the last update to give, still supporting community initiatives. Recently, Hawke's Bay Regional Council supported the Umuroi Mata Planting Day run by Mana Huriri and Ngāti Paro, which was awesome. We had about 12 staff shoot out and help plants around the past sites. And it was a great opportunity to connect with the community for our staff to get on the ground and do some mahi with our whānaus. And we will just continue to support these initiatives where we can and how we can. Nice photo there of our staff and our wonderful chair.
Thanks,
Oh, okay.
It's my niece. Tēnā pia kei tēnei komiti mihi mai waha mai au me te tīma nei kia koutou katoa. I think today's update on Māori partnerships projects that are ongoing and enduring is a reminder that there is lots of strategic change, lots of technical mahi that continues to progress, and I'll introduce the next paper following this, but that Te Rōpū Māori has mandates kia mau, kia u, tonu, ki ngā uara o te manaakitanga, te kotahitanga, hei kanohi ki te amo tātou katoa. So Māori Partnerships continues in and amongst all of the technical, strategic, analytical mahi that happens within this organisation to hold space for Hawke's Bay Regional Council to continue to partner and work alongside whānau, hapu, marae communities at place for us to not only learn technically what we need to know in regards to engaging appropriately with Māori through legislative levers, but te puku o te kōrero, what we need to know from a tikanga and uara perspective as well. So it's to say that there are enduring kaupapa that will always continue in this space, and we just want to ensure that we're keeping that present on your radars. Nō reira, tēnā koutou.
Kia ora. I think just from me, if we're fortunate enough to be resurrected in the new terms, I think it would be useful if we have the opportunity to have a wānanga with our Māori Partnership Board and our committee, where we're actually able to give a half a day or a day, whatever the case may be, to actually have these conversations where we're not sitting in this formal setting and at a compressed level, where we're just doing the high level stuff, actually get to do that deep dive and, if you like, add value to each other's kōrero. I think that'll be extremely useful.
Very good.
Peter?
Yeah, just I suppose just to take some time and just to acknowledge the Māori committee, because for those that weren't here, I suppose when we look at our team up here, our Māori Partnerships team, and Mike, if we go back to when we were just pushing for one person, and then it was good for the Hawke's Bay Regional Council, I suppose, to listen to our kōrero. And then I suppose there's a KPI when we look at the outcome, to see yourselves up there and supporting our Māori kaupapa. I think it's just a great achievement, and we talked about that this morning, about that induction and about looking at success and what's worked. And then if we look at yourselves up there, it's great to see. And we only have to reflect, I suppose, a decade ago, Mike, when was left up to us to do a lot of that mahi. And, you know, from previous board members, I suppose, they took a lot of work mahi on to do what you're doing now. So it's great to see you up there. Obviously, with the Māori committee and those past members, it's good to see that outcome. I think, you know, everyone should pat themselves on the back for what we've achieved, and awesome to hear you call it.
Nice. Yeah, because it used to be a 0.3. I've become a long way from a 0.3. So well done. So kia ora tātou.
Yeah, tēnā koe Chair. I recognise that we've done 2 updates, so 2 of the papers, which was the Māori Partnerships Projects and the Mātauranga and Monitoring update as one. I think the recommendation would have been to receive those 2 reports. So there's that, and I just want to introduce as read, ideally, the paper on treaty settlement commitments and to provide some background to that as well. So attached to that report was a tracker, a spreadsheet or a table outlining completion status of obligations that we have to treaty settlement commitment clauses. Earlier this year, Hawke's Bay Regional Council was a participant in an audit of the Office of the Auditor General into how public entities are upholding their commitments to treaty settlement legislation, and a recommendation of that was that we report more publicly the status of those commitments. So it's there for your perusal. I believe that we are compliant with all, including some that are ongoing commitments that constantly need to be reviewed and worked on from our perspective.
So that was item 9. Are we happy to receive?
Yes.
Yep, thank you. So I'm looking to receive 8, 9 and 10. Items 8, 9 and 10. Need a move and a seconder for that, please. So thank you, Kurt, and thank you, Henare. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Carried. Right, so that takes us to item 12, which is Hawke Park. Thompson, can I come to you, please?
Hi, kia ora tātou. Yes, I was the one that kind of triggered this to be brought to the Māori committee, because I just needed, I guess I needed some confidence in us making a decision in terms of the carry forward and the cost of what was outstanding in terms of the work with Hawke Park, what the commitment was to mana whenua, and just noting that that particular cost was loan funded, and so I guess with everything that's going on, I thought it was more appropriate to bring back to the Māori committee to get a steer on what some of that background is in terms of the relationships with mana whenua in the first instance, and then what are some of the ideas or the thinking around moving forward with this carry forward.
Thank you, Thompson. So Chris, we'll come to you and your team.
Thank you, Chair. So I've got John Kingsford and Bart Leslie here. So Bart's our open spaces planner, regional parks planner. So we've provided a paper there. Bart has got a short presentation around where Hawke Park is and where it's heading, and then we're happy to take questions from there, Chair. So I'll hand over to Bart.
Thank you. So I'll dive straight in because I believe we've only got 5 minutes. So I've been with council for coming up 2 years now. As Chris says, a regional park planner. So I was asked to lean into Hawke Park. It had been, progress had sort of slowed almost to a stop for a variety of reasons, COVID, Cyclone Gabriel, and as well as staff turnover didn't help. So I've, in the last 2 years, been busy, met with the Ngāti Hawea group, Mike and others involved in that. That's been, can I just say, that's been a really positive thing, a really positive group of people, and strongly led by Ngāhiwi Tomoana, a leading light on guiding the way. So what you're looking at here is
a sort of a concept plan, landscape concept plan, if you like, which has a number of different elements. Those elements include sculpture and po, representative of the four marae, Matahiwi, Ruahapia, Koipāriki and Waipatu, of course. So we have plans, concept plans fairly well advanced, looking to, and we've also had a designer, Tuhoi Huata, provide design input on those po and those narratives. So we're all going well. We're in a position to be tendering that work for the supply of po. The po at this stage will be made of core 10 steel, laser cut steel, and just in terms of this image here, where we have the lookout to the top of the site, we're looking at placing those po up on that perimeter, orientated out to where the marae actually sit in the landscape. So yeah, it's been a really exciting piece of work to be involved with, and central to the location positioning of the po on that same mound is a feather, which is a sculpture, incorporating 3 feathers, which is again symbolic of the site. Other landscape enhancements include path network, where council previous to me coming along had sort of formed the site, done the bulk of the planting, so the shape was there, and had done some pathways as well as building the car park. So we've just this week actually completed the construction of the lime sand pathways, so now the site has sort of a complete pathway network that goes all the way around the site. Other sculpture or enhancements include a waharoa, again in core 10 steel, which seems to be becoming something of a trend these days, as it's very long-lasting material. Waharoa at the site, welcoming visitors into the space. And you'll also see there a suggestion of a structure, and that's the plan is for an information storyboard type structure to share the story and the narratives. So yeah, things are moving along steadily now. We've got some momentum up, and really, well, we're gunning to have things complete this financial year, so that we sort of don't have to carry money forward again and finally get it finished. So, bit of a ramble from me.
Nice. So do you want to add anything?
Nice ramble.
No. Well, all I would state is that it is. I guess there's an aspiration for the development to be ongoing. There's more than we can do at this site, but what we just worked through is the current funding opportunity, and I'm sure there'll be ongoing discussions around improving that site going forward. So it's not the end when we finish this stage, and I think it's a really important collaborative project for the regional council, and it's just looking better and better every year with that informal opening back in 2023, I think it was. So. Yeah, really happy to open it up for any questions or discussion.
Could I just make one comment just regarding sort of Thompson asking about the budget and the money in terms of these various items listed? I'm looking to the cost schedule. I'd like to think that we've got most of the elements covered with that available sort of around $400,000 currently, that we can sort of cut the cloth, if you like, and get sort of good outcomes across, good long-term outcomes for the majority of those components.
So Thompson, I don't think that quite answered your question in regards to how did the park come about, which I think was one of your questions.
Yeah, that was probably the centering my question is how the park come about, and what was the level of commitment, what was agreed between Mana Whenua and HBRC at the time, because I'm recognising that it's that the cost is loan funded, so I'm not sure how that kind of stacks up. I mean, it's a project that I'm definitely in support of, but we have to make a decision as councillors, and getting a little bit more information on that would be really helpful.
So I can probably comment on the loan funding aspect, and then we're happy to walk through the history, and some of the history is shared in the paper, but it's quite a long history and quite complex, which is why some of the activities have taken a little while to work through, but certainly very valuable. In terms of loan funding, look, it is quite normal when it comes to infrastructure that it's loan funding, and that's just reflecting there's a multi-generational outcome. And so I'm quite comfortable that this infrastructure is loan funded. It's quite consistent with the policy position of the regional council, and it also spreads that cost, over typically a 20-year period. So it's an effective way of investing in expensive infrastructure. So I'm quite comfortable with that. With the carry forward, of course, with loan funding, we're just carrying forward the opportunity for the loan, and so. It doesn't mean that we've incurred costs in the previous financial year, because we don't draw down the loan until the work is required. So it's quite an absolutely normal part of funding infrastructure.
Otherwise, it would be designated to the ratings, either general rates or to a targeted rate, correct?
That's right. So if we were to fund it directly out of operational rates, that would be, say, the quantum here is $400,000. We would request $400,000 in 1 year, and that would be effectively roughly 1% of rates. Because we take the loan and we pay it over 20 years, it's a very small percentage, and it's really acknowledging that everyone has the opportunity to enjoy the park and its infrastructure over the next generation, so everyone is contributing to that cost rather than the current generation this year.
And just in regards to the history, may I suggest that perhaps I answer, so I can give us the condensed version?
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't go into the wānanga.
Yeah.
So basically, this is the Hawke Park is the result of the expressway that was established in regards to Te Ara Kahikatea.
Correct.
That's the genesis of how this park came about. As a result of the road being established, or the expressway being established, there were little parcels of land that were left behind, and the Māori landowners, I don't know if they were all Māori landowners, but I think there might have been one other, agreed to, if you like, give that land or put that land into a regional park and donate it to council. Part of that was the beautification of the expressway. Part of that was some of the realignment that needed to take place in regards to the awa. It just answered a whole number of questions that had flopped out onto the table, and with that overall consultation with Mana Whenua. So the outcome being the establishment of the regional park, and there's a whole history around that in regards to the naming, etc., etc., etc. I won't go into, other than to say that the legal framework in having the land transferred, if you like, into a trust between those landowners, Mana Whenua and Hawke's Bay Regional Council is still progressing through the Māori Land Court, because they have never ever come across anything like this before. That's the condensed short version of how the park came to be. I hope that's given you some background, Thompson.
Oh boy, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the background. I think it's important that this is kind of given some light. We know that we're kind of under all sorts of pressures as regional council, and regarding our our fiscal responsibility here. And I'm an artist, I'm a carver, and I'm all for embellishing parks, spaces and places. But I just want to just check in on that and give the public some confidence that this is that there's a long-standing commitment, and it's broader than just the park itself.
If there's no further questions?
Just to acknowledge too as well, back in the time when Rex Graham was really clear about wanting to create more regional parks, as Mike was saying, Karakahi Tia was that the expressway that really sort of drew together that land, because the river was kind of under, I've forgotten his name now, joined back at the hip as that knob went around. But I just wanted to say too as well, where the Te Arakahi Kātea also, through James Graham Hastings District Council, and it's maybe something or not, applied for some philanthropic funds. And I mean, I'm just kind of thinking maybe that could be another angle to help and assist with the monuments that have been placed both at the front and down towards Mangatiri, to offset anything, a contribution coming back into the process, if there is. Thompson, that sort of ability to do that. But really, we undertake our cultural monitoring site, and it's a fantastic go-to arrival place. And just look forward to, of course, this being realised with Hawe te tangata, Hori te mana, and Hine mō te wahine Māori kura, which is a combination of those three hapu.
So since you come from all those three hapu Māori, I take it you're going to move it.
Oh, doing that way.
And thank you, Anna. Just a second. All those in favour, please say aye. Thank you, Karen.
Aye.
So that's our lunch. Kapai? Thank you. So we've got a half an hour, guys. Kasarana, I'll be away for that first half hour straight after lunch, so can I get you to chair our first half hour, please?
So we're back at 1:30.
1:30.
Sure, Mike.
1:30. No, we're a bit later now, mate. We're 10 past. Let's go 10 past, 20 to 2. Okay.
Just to let you know, Mike, as well, I have to be gone by 2 o'clock.
I'll be back by 2 o'clock.
Oh, thank you. Ngā mihi. Kia Nick.
Just some a brief update from me and apologies from Hinawai. She's asked me to cover off her piece as well. Obviously, busy time for council and councillors heading into elections that you'll be aware of. I will ask the team maybe to circulate to you all a copy of a thing called the pre-election report. So it's a really useful thing if people want to understand the issues around regional councils and the things that the regional council deals with, state of our finances, etc. It's available online, but there's nothing like having a copy available to you. So I'll just ask the team to circulate that to you. Look, big issues ahead of us. Won't be any surprise to this committee. Clearly, we are still really busy with recovery work, and really pleased to say that some of the flood resilience work that you have heard about over the last 18 months is now coming to fruition. We have begun the major construction of Stop Bank at Waiahiki. We've signed off the documents to go to tender for Whirinaki. Ohiti is hot on its heels, and we're well advanced in the consenting processes for a bunch of those projects. Alongside that in Wairoa, and obviously we've needed to look carefully at the alignment of flood protection through North Clyde, and Cabinet signed off a revised thing called an order in council, which sort of guides the consenting process for Wairoa very recently. And we're working really hard with the Crown Manager on some potential long-term solutions around the Wairoa Bar. So some real positive work there. In addition to that, a number of you or people connected to PSGs and Tai Whenua will be engaged in a thing called reimagining rivers. So this is about how do we think about flood schemes, particularly the big ones, Heretaunga and Upper Tukituki, in the future, create some more room for floods to occur. That's obviously a big community conversation. All of that is leading up to what's going to be, I think, a really challenging long-term plan in a couple of years' time. There will be lots of demand for things to be done, and council is going to have quite a job to figure out how it prioritises what it does and where, and it will be really important to keep this committee abreast of that ahead of the next long-term plan. Other water issues, and we've had a lot of focus in the last couple of years on too much water. Also conscious that we often in Te Matua Māori have too little water. So there is a whole raft of work underway on both looking at the demand for water, the supply of water, and how we might store water into the future. So some of those are initiatives the Regional Council is taking. Others, as we've recently seen, I think some announcements from Tatu Tatu or Te Wairoa on their own water storage approaches. Having a long look at how we do our land management work and in the council, I think the challenge in front of us is one of how do we deliver that advice and support to rural communities in particular as efficiently as we possibly can, and the costs of that work have risen over the years. It's undoubtedly useful, but how do we make best use of catchment groups, hapu collectives, etc., to work with us on improving the health of the field. Part of the work that council's asked me to do as CE in the last 12 months has been to do a review of our efficiency and effectiveness as an organisation, and that is now complete, and we're about to head into implementation of that review. And again, that's looking at how do we deliver our services in a time of fiscal constraint, but perhaps most importantly, it's looking at how do we shape this organisation for the future. And to some extent, we've been shaped over the last few years by things that have been out of all of our control, be it COVID, be it the cyclone or the Wairoa floods. But there's an opportunity now to I guess, put our heads above the parapet a little bit and to think a bit more about the future. The last 24 months have really been head down, buried in recovery. So that's going to be an important piece of work that will roll out over the next 12 to 18 months across the council, and keen in these CE updates to keep the committee abreast of how that mahi is going and where you would like to provide some thoughts and ideas. Moving, I guess, into, and we've covered this off a fair bit, but a lot of central government reform underway at the moment, and it is, I guess, a relatively uncertain future just in terms of where some of these legislative packages are going to land. You all have heard quite a lot of commentary about the future of local government and in particular about the future of regional councils. At the moment, there's nothing definitive come out of government around that, but it's worth keeping our ears to the ground as those conversations progress. And certainly, whilst all goes on in Wellington, I hope the strength of the relationships that we have locally kind of continue to endure through all of that. And certainly the commitment from this council has been there to want to do that. And I hope you've seen, in today, but also over the course of the last 3 years, that we'll be far from perfect as an organisation, but there's a strong commitment to how do we integrate Te Ao Māori perspectives with the work of the council, making sure we do uphold and are compliant to what Māori have spent a long time negotiating with the Crown in terms of treaty settlements, that we fulfil our part of that process, and that we embrace and work with the collective ideas of the region on tackling some really complex problems and bringing Mātauranga Māori into that process. So still work to do, but I hope you've seen over the last 3 years a good signal of the intent and the direction that the organisation has been travelling. Finally, wanted to end up on induction for a new council, and thank you for your ideas and thoughts for that today. I think induction will go on, and the current council has given me their views on an induction that might last 2 or 3 months rather than just a couple of weeks. But looking to really start that process by bringing the new council in through the front door. With the first council meeting, we'll start at Puki Moki Moki Marae, where we can welcome councillors in. The new council will get sworn in, and then we'll return back to this building to get on with the rest of its business for that day. So hopefully that will be a really positive way to start that council's relationship with Tangata Whenua in the new triennium. Happy to take any questions on that, and then I'd like to offer you a short mihi for your mahi.
Katarina, can I just add, I think it would be useful to add a few comments around the Reimagining Rivers project. Peter and I are on the governance committee of that, but this is the most significant piece of work that will happen in the council over the next couple of years. This is the sort of $500 million investment that we're talking about around the reshaping of Tutaikuri and Ngāraroro into what does flood resilience look like over that space, which of course is of primary interest, I think, to this committee. So I think, and I'm going to include Peter, he can he can speak on that if he wishes to, but sitting on the governance table, we're really aware what's happening in that TAG group that's been working now for a number of months, is that all our organisations are involved there. So our staff from regional council, from the district councils, from Tamatia Pokai Whenua, from Mana Ahuriri, from Niki as well, are working in that technical advisory group together to bring the recommendations back to us. So I suppose what I'm trying to do is give you all some comfort that the integrated conversation at the very front end is happening with all of our staff together. And then at the governance table, Peter and Tanya, yes, are there, and Di Smith for Tamatia Pokai Whenua. So think it's good to know that if you're looking for more information around that technical work, then it can be found either through governors here or through staff within the organisations as well. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, and just to support Sophie, yeah, I sit on behalf of Mana Hiriri on the governance team, so I've taken a seat in regards to that. So obviously, as said, a lot of that technical team, we've got I know Mana Hiriri's committed a person to help that mahi, so everyone's committed from different organisations, people to work on that technical information data that's going to come through. An important point in regards to feedback is obviously there's going to be workshops or kōrero happening throughout the community, and that's most really an important part of the process to feedback up, because obviously we sit on a governance table, but for our whānau, that whether it's a marae or a particular focus group that's got key kōrero they want to bring into that conversation, it'll be good to feed it up through those workshops that are going to be implemented throughout the region. So supportive as we move forward as mana whenua to make sure that we're actively engaged and participating in that process.
Any more questions for the CE from the table?
I just want to say, just in regards, good luck to the team, and I know I've got it in my report, and as we go through a period of change, and I think me and Sophie were talking about change, sometimes changes can be challenging, and then it's how you work through change. Obviously for Māori, we've been through a lot of changes over a number of decades, so we're quite aware to all the changes that we've had to go through. But I suppose from a political front at the moment, there's a lot of change in the air, so we're going into uncertain times. Obviously, with policy and legislation that's coming out, it appears challenging, and it's just how we deal with it and come out the other end. So, Nick, to you and your team, to the Regional Council, good luck for the future, and we acknowledge you're going through some challenging times.
Kia ora. Thank you. Chair, with your leave,
Peter.
I just finish off with my attempt for te reo te wiki Māori. And,
thank you very much. Kia ora, kia kaha.
Ngā mihi nui ki tēnei komiti Māori, mō tō pukumahi tō arataki me o whakaro nui. I ēnei toru tau kua hipa nei. Thank you to the committee for your work, your guidance, your wisdom over the last 3 years, and it stood HBRC and the officers of the council in really good stead. So a huge mihi from me on behalf of the organisation for all the mahi your committee has done. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Kia ora.
Haere ora. Kia ora ki a koe.
Urea nei e te hau. Oroia e te ua. Whiti whitia e te rā. Mahea te rā. Poraru raru. Makere ana ngā here. Wairu waere. Inga o te rangi. Whiti whitia e te rā. Mahea ke rā. Poraru raru. Makere ana ngā here.
Kia ora.
Kia ora koutou. Wow, beautiful. Te Tāhua.
Would you like to carry on?
What immaculate timing, Mike. We've just completed our CE's update, and we are up to the chair's update and the Tai Whenua reporters.
There's no chair update, so we're going to go straight to Takiwa, Tai Whenua reports. Editor. I need a move and a seconder for the CEO's report. Thank you, Kataraina.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie.
A pleasure.
All those in favour, please say aye. Thank you. Carried.
Aye.
Did you send that?
Believe government circulated your report.
Oh, the report. But anyway, I'll just talk briefly because some of that was highlighted. And just want to acknowledge Hui today. So I just wanted to highlight some of the work that got brought up as part of the Māori Partnerships focus around Te Kapehu, is it? Kapehu. And that within that, of course, we've just completed this 2-3 year program that started initially from a board of inquiry over the Rua Tanafa, which was a direction imposed by the chairman to get ourselves alongside of Hawke's Bay Regional Council. The question was being asked, what constitutes Māori? And everyone around the table were giving their own interpretation. I guess then what had followed after an initial 2-year delay start to back in 2018, sorry, then morphed itself into the Tai Whenua having to commit to underwrite the resources that were to get us back down to on the ground, wānanga with our whānau. And then, of course, we had the disruptions of both COVID. We had Gabriel come along. Unfortunately, during that time, we were able to score a very important bit of resource from Ministry for the Environment. What that's enabled us to do was to complete that journey, which has taken a good 3-4 years in order to frame up our own monitoring wellbeing framework, which we call Ngāpau Mataraho. Just want to acknowledge what you may not know, but more importantly, acknowledge the work that you are also doing, probably out with your own marae hapu people. How it all needs this, you got to put time up your sleeve, as my uncles would say, whenever there's a good kaupapa that needs to launch and take shape, and I think we've been able to do that. We're now walking into some discussions with our team, our relationship team here with Te Wairama, and so most of that discussion came out of the reports today. Just want to highlight 2 things that I did ask as part of my question around the operational outstanding water body, Plan Change 7. All of this went before, I think, the full board for sign-off last month, and it was just a matter of where this would then see its operating. And to that extent, of course, consents that will come that have now got this extra layer of both the Waitangi estuary, parts of the Karumi estuary, the Hiratonga and Rua Tanafa aquifers, along with the Peka Peka and Pokawa watershed areas, that has now got this higher cultural, spiritual threshold, that when consents come along, that has to be taken into consideration. Finally, just to say that we won a High Court case through this consent, Marae Kakoho Quarry consent, locating itself in a very highly sensitive area. And basically it was heard under the previous Fast Track 2020 law, and of course that's been superseded to abrogate and severely and sever off, of course, Section 6 Treaty Waitangi. And so, while we've won in principle, I guess that doesn't necessarily mean, we've won the war. And of course, I met with the owner yesterday I mean, it was never our intention to stop development, you know, and, you know, while we've got huge issues around the rebuild, the economy and the gravel, which comes under, of course, the broader ambit of a global consent here with regional council. I just want to say that for once, geez, we in the High Court's very shaky insofar as where points of law are going to be picked up, and of course, glad to see that Judge Isaacs ruled in saying that the expert panel got it wrong, erred in law, particularly around Section 6 of the Treaty of Waitangi, in terms of its act of protection over our taonga. So I just wanted to say that that's happened. This fellow wants to pull out the wine bottles, and I'm saying, well, Christ, you know, life after this, of course, is with all the changes that are going on, and notwithstanding, this is probably going to be waiting for an appeal, probably won't happen. There's this new Fast Track Act, which is enabling more permissive. So, you know, it's life and struggle goes on. So, kia ora tātou.
Yes, we want to make sure that wine doesn't turn into vinegar. Te wairo?
Can I go first, Henare? Oh, look, because I've got to run away, but kia ora whānau. Look, tautoko te kōrero so far, and I wish I was there in person. Kei Tāmaki Makaurau, aho. Nā te mea, I'm up here engaging with the University of Auckland on behalf of our hapori te Wairo. And so some of the mahi we've been working with in the Tai Whenua have been the placeholder for Lawrence Yule, our Crown coordinator around the flooding relief, and so the Tai Whenua has been an office, a kind of roving kind of turning around our community for engagement for Lawrence and his team. Also, there's a cultural impact assessment being supported by the Tai Whenua for the Ruataniwha Marae, who does not totally agree, but are still fleshing out options for themselves. There's also a cultural impact assessment in progress as well for the AFCO meatworks along the river. That by the latter half of this month, September, will be completed. So it's in draft format at the moment. It's with the mana whenua. That's in regards to AFCO and their proposed consents. What else is there? There's also a partnership collab with the University of Auckland looking at multidisciplinary, excuse my lyrics, around the climate resilience and tile space. So we engage with the engineering department, the biological department. It's all around the health and well-being of not only the tile but our community. So that's just my little brief report from where I'm looking. I'm just going to pass it over to Paul Kelly and Henare. Kia ora.
We'll start with the beauty first, Paul.
She said me first, I can go next. I represent Kahungunu Executive in Wairau, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about them. They have a whakapapa link back to the New Zealand Māori Council. So through them, the New Zealand Māori Council sits at this table. The whakapapa link to them was weakened with representation from the marae, 35 marae we have in Wairau. And recently the KE decided to call a hui of all the marae, get a representative there to boost their numbers. They had 100% success, really. It was really good. They all came along, so we've boosted that part of our whakapapa back up, and it's now functioning and it's alive and kicking. So that's pretty good. So Kahungunu Executive continue to work with the community of Te Wairau in terms of health and housing. I can tell you that the 17 houses we've got are fully occupied and have been maintained to a good standard. They continue to search for a new premises, a new base for themselves. They've outgrown where they live and negotiating with their landlords, Waikaremoana Trust Board, for a result there. So that's that, and Yeah, so that's basically it. They're still functioning pretty well and everything's working good. Finally, they continue to support over 35 marae on the river and the people in health and well-being. Kia ora tātou.
I just want to focus on one thing that was brought up this morning in relation to hapu marae plans. Something that was mentioned this morning. One of the unfortunate obstacles that institutions like the Hawke's Bay Regional Council and the Wairoa District Council are going to have to try and overcome somehow is the suspicion and the distrust people have for these organisations. Hence the reason they're not, some of them aren't in fact will refuse to give that kind of information over to. It's unfortunate, I think, but it's just sort of like listening to some of the conversation that was had at our tai whenua. It's kind of the reality that regional councils or local government and are going to have to somehow deal with. Kia ora tata.
And Pangani Aroti?
Yeah, I'll just give a brief. We've got a one page that we circulated out. Yeah, it was good to see we opened Motu Marae a few weeks ago, and it was just good to get through that the cyclone recovery and be in a position that the marae is open for whānau to utilise. So that just marked a milestone after Gabriel's been a few years, but it's still impacted. Obviously, it's still impacted some other members in the community and other marae. But yeah, that was a good. That was good just to get the marae up and operating, and then obviously we thank everyone's support through on that journey. That was great. I just, and I know Kahi here, just in relation, I added that onto our tai whenua report in relation to all the housing that's going on with mana huriri, and the positive impact that it's going to have, it's going to occur with our hapu and our whānau and the community with all the shortages in there. So I think there's some positive steps moving forward in that housing space. So yeah, it's looking really great as we proceed. I know it's happening over in Heratanga as well. So good to see some of those housing options happening with our whānau. And yeah, tai whenua's going for some strategic planning. We've got Pāwals coming up on the end of the month. And looking forward to that. It was well attended last year over in Green Meadows, and yeah, good to see us building our capacity and our whānau support with those community initiatives. So Tongoia's hosting this year's Pāwals, but it's grown, so it's a good community event. Brings our whānau together in one place, and for our rangatahi, because we talk about succession planning, and we look at that as a positive step to engaging with our wider whānau and their rangatahi that's coming through. So looking forward to that at the end of this month.
I thought you were talking about your monthly marae hui when you said Pāwals.
Oh, no. I'm talking about Heratanga. Yeah, and it was great to see the Moti Puketapu Bridge open. It's been a long time, so it was great. It was a great day for everybody, for the community, for whānau, and it just, you know, even myself, and we had our AGM the other day when I was going to the thing, and I forgot the bridge was open, go right around, went back, and I thought, oh, geez, I can go over the bridge now. So yeah, that's great to see. To see the bridge open and just supporting the community at large. And I suppose just to finish off on, just to, because I'm aware some people may not be coming back, and some people notwithstanding in regards to the regional council, just acknowledge obviously the relationships that we've developed as mana whenua over a number of years with those councillors that have been a part of the regional council. Just want to acknowledge your commitment and working alongside us to achieve our aims and goals. And I know I touched on it earlier, but yes, it's been a good journey that we've been on in relation to where we're currently at the moment. So just acknowledging those individuals. And just for the new candidates, obviously it's always a challenge. I know Kirk here he's standing for council in that, and just supporting all those people that put their hand up, especially our Māori whānau, because it's a challenging role, and just to put your hand up and say, hey, I want to go into politics or head into that space, it can be challenging. So just for me, to all our candidates in the community, we're putting their hands up to take on those roles. Nā mihi. Thank you.
Mr Chairman, I've got to add two small items on, if I can get Stuart here to just outline those. Appreciate that.
Kia ora, just through the chair. So Te Whenua Heretango is rolling out Marae Open Day kaupapa. It's going to happen before the local body elections. Out of our 14 marae, not obviously we couldn't host them, all of them, but we've got 6 marae that have put their hands up. This could be held over 1 day or over 2 days, depending on our capacity with our kaumata and those on the floor. So that's an exciting kaupapa, and the overarching objective there is connection to our marae, not just for whānau Māori, but for our wider community. The second kaupapa is Science Wānanga that we've been rolling out for, 16 years, in conjunction with Otago University. That's happening the week of 17th to the 21st of November at Matahiwi Marae, the theme being Moana, and year 9 and 10 tauira are invited to that kaupapa. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Were there any questions for any of the presenters or any of the reports? No. Can I get a move in a second? Thank you, Councillor Sears, and thank you, Councillor Lambert.
I'd love to.
All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Carried. So, minor items. Can I come to you first, Peter?
Yeah, and I just raised the issue this morning, and I know Te Wairama we've dealt with, but it was a long-standing issue in regards to procurement process in James Palmer, and that when we talked about that a number of years, and it was brought up in our AGM, funny enough, on the weekend. I know Rosie wouldn't mind me mentioning her name because she raised it in regards to the procurement process, and she is under the standing that we had implemented that a number of years ago through our Māori Standing Committee, but then I corrected and said, well, no, it wasn't. I suppose it was just an important part of our policy. We thought that was implemented, and James, I thought, gave a commitment that it was put in. So when we found out that it wasn't implemented, in regards, that's around mahi and that's through the council, and there was a procurement process that we had discussed over a number of years, might have been 3, 4 years, or maybe even 5 years, and to find out it wasn't implemented through the council, because I stopped talking about it because I thought it was implemented, but then to find out it wasn't implemented because we were just trying at that stage, if we go back to the whakapapa in history, there was a lot of mahi being done, and our Māori providers were saying to us, hey, there was an opportunity, and through James and our conversation, we thought we had addressed that, and then and then to find out it wasn't addressed, and obviously there was concern. When we talk about measuring ourselves and delivering on deliverables and KPIs, obviously, I thought I might have missed the boat on that, because I thought it had been implemented. So, when I put my hand up to say, yep, I may have missed that boat. So, I just thought it's important to look back, because we're measurable as well for what we, as members on this committee, what we say we're going to do, and then when we don't do something, you need to say, oh, sorry, I didn't implement that, which I thought I had. So I just think we needed to raise it as a committee. And then going forward, because if it hasn't been, what do we need to action that? And then maybe just keeping ourselves, we're talking about going forward as a committee, making sure we're achieving our KPIs that we set for ourselves.
I'd like to support you on that, Peter. I also believe that it had gone through, had been through to council, to the council table, and had been approved. So I'll take the response that has come back that it wasn't, and like yourself, happy to take responsibility from our part in ensuring that that it should have made sure that it was actioned. But I like to ensure that, especially when once we get into the new term.
And I'd just like to total everything that you've said, Mike, that we need to follow up on that and make sure it's implemented. So I acknowledge the responsibility also.
Cool.
Kia ora.
Thank you. Mare, we're coming to you.
That item has already been taken care of.
Taken care of.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the final item was in regards to Māori wards. First and foremost, I like to recognise the position that Regional Council is in, and that it has to take a neutral position in regards to the promotion of any individual personally putting themselves forward in regards to any positions, any of the election nominees, etc., etc. But I would ask is that I do believe council do have a responsibility in ensuring that people are educated in regards to, especially in regards to the referendum, what are the issues at stake, what is the process of that referendum, more importantly, ensuring that there's good general knowledge being put out to the wider region so they can actually make an informed decision. The second part to that, and I think Peter's touched on that, was just recognising those, especially yourself, Councillor Lambert, who's not putting yourself forward for the next electoral round. I'd like to recognise your commitment, not only in regards to the Māori wards, but in the previous triennial when you actually were the elected candidate for Wairau. And then, of course, your previous service on the Māori Standing Committee. So you've been through that whole journey of supporting Māori and the views and thoughts and kaupapa that Māori have put to the table in regards to Hawke's Bay Regional Council over what must be now a couple of decades, or close to. And of course, acknowledging Councillor Hokianga, being elected back into the next term.
Without a challenger on
Again, but also to those that now Raki, Takitumi Raki seat, that are running for that vacancy that's been thrown up. So all the best to those that are putting themselves forward. My only other comment is in regards to, I think we all have a responsibility to ensure that we do our best to inform our communities and our wider communities in regards to what are the issues surrounding not only here for regional council, but at a local district council level as well. And making sure our whānau engage. And engaging means you take part in the process, that you don't go down to the marae and just start moaning about how useless everyone is when you don't go and participate yourself, whether that's making sure you're registered, putting in a vote, or in the case of the Māori wards, taking part in a referendum. So I really encourage all our whānau to do so, especially our rangatei, because at the end of the day, the decisions we make today are for the betterment of our rangatei of Apopo. So with that, I think that brings us...
Kia ora. Can I please make one last comment? And aroha mai wasn't here for Nick's update. But I just want to thank and give a huge mihi to the chairs, our co-chairs of this committee. Matua Mike and Katarina, ngā mihi aroha, kia kōrua. Thank you for guiding us this term. Been tremendous value being sought from this tepu, from the representatives, especially coming through to council. And I'm really pleased to hear that you'd like to keep the same committee, status quo, and I hear that and I support that. So whether I am around the table next term in whatever position we come back as, I'll be supporting that recommendation. But thank you all. Kia ora, tēnā tātou katoa. It's been a pleasure being around this tepu and hope to see you next term. Kia ora.
So we also just want to recognise the service of Councillor Williams, Councillor Foley and Councillor Lambert. I think those are the three. And
Harding, Councillor Harding. Yep.
Yes, so it's those councillors who are not putting themselves forward. Yeah, so really appreciate working alongside them and with them. Appreciate that it's always hasn't been in... There has been its challenges along the way, and that's how any good committee should operate. There should always be a little bit of tension there to make sure we get the best decisions out for the whole of our community. With that, I think we have come to the end, and I'm going to, since this is Councillor Lambert's last, well, I think it's allowed to be the last one in regards to being here at the Māori Standing Committee. If I can ask you to whakakapia tātou hui tēnei wā, and then I'll pass over to Māori too. So to move in a second for the minor items.
Ka whai.
Thank you, councillor. I'll speak. Thank you, Māori. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Thank you, carried. Councillor.
Kia ora. Cheers, Mike. I'd just like to say before we close off, it's been really awesome, but I have better things to do with my time, like go out and watch the grass grow.
Positive things.
To be honest, I'm going to go and work with the whānau and the marae. I thought it's about filling my cup, unfortunately, instead of filling my piggy bank. So, and I started in the last few weeks working with Tato and other things, so it's been really cool. Can I just add that, we had a couple of issues on our marae, and we got really good advice from Katarina, from the Tai Whenua, and from Ana, from Tato actually. They were pretty onto it, so I feel the old that sort of space is okay in Wairoa. And well, I guess coming down this way will be up to you guys. So, me karaki Tato te manaakitanga.
Yeah, e tu tātou, and we'll just finish off and then you can wrap it up with the closing karakia, right?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
National
Right.
anthem.
Taputahi kia putahira tātou tātou e Lutina mai ngā iwi tātou tātou e mai me te aroha e ngā iwi kia taputahi kia putahira tātou tātou e Lutina mai ngā iwi tātou tātou e Lutina mai ngā iwi tātou tātou e mai a te marapatanga me te aroha e ngā iwi kia taputahi kia putahira tātou tātou e au e tātou
Karakia tātou, kia tātou katoa.
Tia te whai o tō tātou ai ki e ihu karaiti, me te aroha o te atua, me te whiwhinga tahitanga ki te wairua tapu, ake, ake, āmene, kia ora tātou whānau. Lovely.
Thank you.
Right.